Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Neighborhood Housing Office's last student webinar of the spring 2020 semester. Tonight, we're going to be talking about roommates. So really quick, just some webinar etiquette. Just please mute your video and your microphone. If you do have to ask a question, just use the chat function and we'll be sure to get to your question. If for some reason we don't get to your question, there's a lot of time at the end to ask any questions you might have. So just the agenda of the webinar, we're going to go over the listing service, finding roommates, the occupancy ordinance in Milwaukee, roommate conflict, parties, just stuff about social distancing, paying bills, parking, and an overview of the legal clinic and the university housing. So really quick, the Neighborhood Housing Office believes in serving as a resource to support student success as both tenants and community members. We encourage civic responsibility, serve as a liaison between UWM and the community, and offer education and guidance to our constituents on the rental process and more. We promote positive living experiences in the neighborhoods near UWM through educational initiatives, referral, and outreach. If you want to learn more about our office, feel free to visit us at uwm.edu/neighborhoodhousing. Another ways that you guys can visit us, as I just said, on the website that's on the right-hand side of the screen. That's our homepage right there. If you want to set up a virtual meeting with us, we have our contact form on our website, and one of the Neighborhood Housing Office's staff will reach out to you, and then you can schedule a virtual meeting with us if you have an in-depth question. On the left-hand side of the screen, on the top, that's our Facebook page. If you just have a really quick question that you need just a brief answer to, you can chat us on our Facebook page. It's staffed from 10 to 2 every Monday through Friday, so you can expect a prompt response there. And then at the bottom left-hand corner is our Instagram, where we just post updates about the office, just some fun FAQs, other information. So give us a follow. You can stay up to date with everything that the Neighborhood Housing Office has to offer. And then a little bit about our team. My name is Emmy. I'm a graduate student at UWM. I am going for mental health counseling. I have lived off campus for about 4 years now, and I've worked for the Neighborhood Housing Office for all of the spring 2020 semester. And I really love helping students just kind of figure out, about off-campus housing and just kind of help them through that process.
Hi, my name is Abby. I'm an undergrad kinesiology student at UWM, and I've been working at the Neighborhood Housing Office for about 1.5 years now.
Hi everyone, my name is Riley, and I'm currently a junior at UWM studying marketing and finance. I've been working with the NHL for about 4 months now, and I absolutely love it. My favorite part is definitely getting to interact with all of you guys and helping assist you through the transition of off-campus housing.
My name is Bree, and I've been living off campus for about 3 years and working at the NHO for a little over.
So now I'm going to turn it over to Riley to talk about our listing service.
Thanks, Emmy. So now I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about our listing service. I'm actually going to share my screen with you guys and just help you guys navigate it and so you can be more familiar with it. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the home page of our website. If you guys go to the Living Off Campus dropdown and the first button, Find Off Campus Rentals, this will take you to our listing service. And so this is actually our very own listing service. Our office teamed up with Rent College Pads to tailor this listing service exactly to UWM students. So every single listing that you'll see on this listing service those landlords and rental companies know that they're renting to UWM students. So that's super nice, and it kind of gives you that security that you don't always get with other listing services. So just briefly, on the right here, you see the map. All the little black icons are houses, and all the yellow icons are apartments. And then if you zoom in a little bit, the UWM is this gray icon, so you can kind of see the vicinity of where these places are in relation to UWM. So that's the map over here, and then over on the left-hand side, you have all the listings just in a list view, which you can take a look at like that. Otherwise, if you have more specific needs or wants, you can go to this filter option right here. And this is super cool because you can filter how many beds you want, how many baths, like you can put in your max rent. You can put your available date that you want to move in, if you want to live in a house or an apartment. I'll come back to this in a second. Like amenities, so if you have a cat that you know you're going to want to live with, you can click the cats button and then click show results, and then all those results will be cat friendly. So that's super cool. Quickly back to the programs. Our office has two really awesome programs, the Good Neighbor program, which is for landlords, and the Preferred Tenant program, which is for students. So the Good Neighbor program is essentially landlords who have gone above and beyond other landlords. So they've given us proof that they have taken they've gotten background checks, their properties have been background checked, they've taken like extra courses. So that kind of just shows you that they're going to be good landlords to rent with. And then the Preferred Tenant program, Abby's going to talk about later, but if you complete that, or if you're interested in that, you can click that and then press show results, and I'll show you what these look like. So on the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see little badges, and so like these three all participate in the Preferred Tenant program. This one participates in both the Good Neighbor and the Preferred Tenant program. So if those are something that you guys are interested in, definitely use those filters to help filter out those units. So the next thing in our slideshow that I'm going to talk about is roommates. But before I stop sharing the screen, I just want to show you this super cool feature that this listing service has. So if you click on the roommates button, I'm already logged in, but it's going to ask you to log in with your UWM credentials, and then you can account. Essentially, this is a list of everyone who has filled out roommate requests. And if you want to create one yourself, you can if you're looking for roommates. Otherwise, you can just kind of like scan this and see. This is super cool because not only does it give you their contact information and their age and their class status and stuff like that, but it gets like more personal, so you can know if you're going to be like accommodating with each other. So like, do you smoke? If you're clean or messy? Like, do you drink? When do you prefer to study? So these are all just super good questions that you can look at to see if you guys are going to fit well as roommates. So there's that, and then the same thing for subleases. So people have come on here and posted their sublease, like their subleases, and so if you're looking to take over someone's lease for a short amount of time, we highly recommend that you come to this and look here. Also, if you yourself have a sublease you want to post, you can post a sublease there. And then last thing is parking, which is similar to the first two, but if for some reason your unit doesn't have like parking available, or you have a different circumstance or stuff like that, you can definitely check this out. People have posted their parking slots, and it tells you like how much it is per month, if they're uncovered or covered, their address, stuff like that. So this listing service is a super great tool to use when you're like doing your search for off-campus stuff. So we highly recommend you check this out. Okay, let's see. Okay. There we go. All right. So next, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about roommates. So super common question that we get from students that's super important to be aware of is, if your roommate moves out before the end of the lease, who has to pay the rent? So unless you all have individual leases, which isn't that likely, you are all jointly liable for this lease. So what this means is that you can be charged for their rent if they refuse to pay. So every one of you can be held responsible to pay the rent in full if someone decides not to. So if your roommate moves out before the end of the lease, we recommend trying to find a subleaser as soon as possible. Otherwise, just talk it out and see what the plan is for that room is moving out and if they're going to pay rent. And then another large thing that we want you to be aware of is Milwaukee's Occupancy Ordinance. So this ordinance states that no more than 3 unrelated people can live in any one rental unit in the city of Milwaukee. So a related individual is anyone in your immediate family up to your first cousin. So therefore, you may not live with more than 2 other people who are not in your immediate family or your first cousins. This also means that no more than 3 unrelated people can be on a lease. So if you have more than 3, whoever is not on that lease is technically not obligated to pay the rent or stay for the entirety of the lease. And ignoring the city ordinance can put everyone at risk for eviction and paying for the rent of anyone who isn't actually on the lease. And evictions stay on your record for up to 20 years, so we highly recommend that you guys abide by this occupancy ordinance. Next, Abby's going to talk about roommate conflict.
So oftentimes living with roommates is going to result in conflicts no matter how big or small they might be. A good way to avoid these conflicts would be to start with a roommate contract. This may seem unnecessary, especially in the case where your roommate might be a close friend, but filling one of these out beforehand will definitely help to go over some issues that might result in conflicts later on. You should make sure to discuss a variety of things before you actually sign the lease with your roommates to make sure you're comfortable living with them for the entirety of your lease. These things include smoking, pets, overnight guests, shared spaces and items such as food, kitchen units, bathrooms, furniture, cleaning duties, and other living habits. You also, before choosing a roommate, want to consider some things about yourself and what you're looking for in others. These might include study habits and class schedules, what time of day you have class, what time you like to study, what type of studier are you? Do you like to study alone, with other people? Talk about noise level and things like that. You'll also want to discuss sleeping arrangements. Are you a morning person, a night person? Are you comfortable with having people over at your house for late hours of the night? Things such as that. You're also going to want to make sure you discuss the cleaning duties and how you're going to split these up in the house and what you're comfortable with doing and what your roommates will be comfortable with doing. You should also have a plan for discussing guests, parties, and sleepover guests, and just make sure that you and your roommates are all on the same page when it comes to things like this. You also want to take into account any personal and life situations that might impact your roommate or yourself, such as personal space, smoking, drinking, ability to pay bills, and renter's insurance. If you do ever come into conflict, which in many cases will happen, there are some great ways that you can work to resolve this. Communication is the first step, and it's the #1 thing when it comes to conflicts such as these. You want to use this conversation effectively and make sure that you are making an effort as well as your roommate. You're going to want to try to avoid placing blame on anyone and focus on using I statements. Second, you're going to want to make sure that you define the problem at hand. If you're having an issue with your roommate, you want to make sure you're as specific as possible when explaining to them and have a normal discussion over the issue. The next step would be to brainstorm solutions. So you and your roommate or roommates should come together and try to work through this conflict with a solution that benefits all parties. Once you've come up with a variety of solutions, you're going to want to go over all of these solutions and see which one you think will be best for all of you. And then comes time to take action and put the solution in place. You're going to want to make sure you do this in the best way possible and that everyone is on the same page when it comes to this step. And lastly, once the solution has been put in place, you're going to want to make sure that you're checking up on your other roommates to make sure that they are happy and satisfied with the result of the solution that was chose. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Riley to talk a little bit about house parties.
Okay, so when it comes to parties, we understand that you are all adults and everyone can make their own decisions. However, we do encourage everyone to abide by the social distancing stay-at-home order. Although the state of Wisconsin has lifted this ban, Milwaukee County remains under the stay-at-home order, so we encourage you all to follow that order. If you do choose to have a gathering, we definitely encourage you all to be mindful and respectful of your neighbors and community. So definitely let your neighbors know if you're having a gathering and give them your contact information. This way they can let you know if the noise level is getting out of hand and stuff like that. Although we are not encouraging parties right now, it is possible that the Milwaukee Police can issue a fine if you choose to do so. They can issue a $500 fine or a max of 30 days incarceration if they catch you in a party situation. So with this information, we encourage you guys to be mindful of the orders and respectful of our Milwaukee community with whatever choices you do end up making. Besides that, I have two questions that we commonly get from students. One is, should I tell my roommates and neighbors if I'm throwing a house party? So I kind of touched on this already, but yes, this is a respectful thing for a roommate to do, and you should definitely notify your neighbors as well. This is something that you should probably discuss before moving in with someone. If you or your roommates are going to be throwing parties, you might also want to discuss individual locks on your bedroom door, or discuss any other situations that may arise from a party setting. Another question we get is, what is the fine for a noise ticket? So under normal circumstances, the cost of a noise ordinance violation is $206, and that's the ticket for the first offense. If the noise can be heard from 50 feet outside of your unit by the Milwaukee Police Department, you can receive this citation. After the first offense, obviously the price increases, and after the third, tenants can actually be evicted. And like I said before, evictions are not good, and they can stay on your record for up to 20 years. But those are just under normal circumstances. Like I said, right now, you can be fined $500 or max of 30 days incarceration. So with that, we just want you to have all the knowledge and be able to make your own decisions with that. Abby's going to talk about social distancing now.
So when it comes to the social distancing guidelines that are currently in place, you and your roommate might have some differences about this. So this is another thing that you're going to want to make sure you guys have an open communication about. So you're going to want to be open and empathetic when communicating with your landlord about the social distancing guidelines. And once again, avoid placing blame on any of your roommates. You'll want to be understanding of your roommates' perspectives and thoughts and emotions when it comes to this topic, as it's impacted all of us greatly and on different levels. You should focus your conversation on which actions and steps can be taken by both you and your roommates, and on your emotions and how you're feeling. The overall goal is to come up with a shared plan and ground rules that will work for you, your roommates, and at your rental unit. But in the end, when it comes down to it, you are the only one that can control your own actions, and you aren't necessarily going to be able to control your roommates in a sense. So just make sure that if you feel strongly about the social distancing guidelines, that you're doing your part to disinfect and social distance yourself from your roommates if it does come down to it. But overall, we recommend just having a conversation and discussing your feelings and opinions about this before moving forward into the school year and living with your roommates. Next, we're going to talk about paying bills. So when you usually sign up to pay bills such as like internet or energy, likely those are going to be put in only one person's name. So you and your roommates are going to have to determine whose name those are going to be in and how you're going to split them up. Sometimes it's a good idea just to make one person out of you and your roommates like the point person for rent and bills, and then they'll just collect all the money and then pay on them. You just want to make sure if you're not that person, that your roommate is keeping up with paying the bills and rent on time. You're also going to need to know what bills you are going to be required to pay. Some landlords will pay for water, others won't. Some will say all utilities are included. Other places will say you need to set everything up on your own. You can find this in your lease. If it's not listed in your lease, you should ask your landlord. It definitely should be listed in your lease though, and that's fine what you are responsible for. Another thing kind of that fits in here is trash removal and shoveling. This is another thing in your lease that will say whether you are responsible for it or your landlord is. If you do not shovel the sidewalks or properly remove your trash, you will likely be fined by the city of Milwaukee, and we've seen it happen many times with students. And then lastly, when it comes to paying bills, you might be wondering how much these might cost ahead of time when weighing your options between different rental units. So you can always ask the landlord for a ballpark estimate. Usually they'll be able to give you one of these because they've been leasing out that property for many years. And also We Energies, which is who you'll set your energy bill up with through the city of Milwaukee. If you call them and you give them the address of your prospective rental unit, they'll be able to tell you the average price for the energy bill for the past year, which is super helpful and usually pretty accurate to what you can expect to pay. Now we're going to talk to you a little bit about parking.
Okay, so parking is where things can get a little bit tricky in Milwaukee. Many of the units around UWM do come with parking. Sometimes you just have to pay a monthly fee to occupy that parking space, but sometimes it's just included with the rent, and sometimes units don't have any parking to offer at all. So that's something to be aware of if you're going to have your vehicle in Milwaukee. Campus has some great parking options that are available, both covered and uncovered, that you can pay a monthly fee to use. So that's something that you can check out. Also, like I mentioned earlier, to look for additional parking, you can definitely check out our listing service under the parking tab. And those are just other students that have parking spaces available for you to rent. If this isn't something you want to do, or there isn't parking at your unit or something different, you can park on the street. However, your car must have a Wisconsin license plate and current registration. Also, the address on your license or your driver's license must match the address of where you are living in Milwaukee. So in order to do all this, you can update your address ahead of time on the Wisconsin DMV website, which we have listed there. Aside from those logistics, you will also need to obtain a parking permit through Milwaukee PD District 1. So for more information on this, you can visit the second link on the screen, which will also be posted in the chat. For some different alternatives to the options I just talked about, Milwaukee has great transportation systems that residents can use. So like the bubbler bikes, which are racks of bikes all around the city that you can just pay a small fee to use. And there's racks all over the city, so you can just pick a bike up in one location and drop it off in another. A lot of people like to use those in the fall and spring to get to class or to get to downtown, stuff like that. Another option is the U-Pass system, which includes the various Milwaukee transportation bus routes that run all over Milwaukee. And this is actually free for UWM students, which are awesome. When you become a UWM student, you get a bus pass card, and so you never have to pay the bus fares. So those are all great options that we highly recommend figuring out what fits best for you and going from there. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the University Legal Clinic. So our office gets a lot of legal questions about renting, and we always send the students to the University Legal Clinic. We work really closely with them just because they go hand in hand. So the ULC assists students in reviewing a lease before signing it. So before you choose to sign the lease, you can take it there, and they will read it completely over. They have an attorney there. He can make sure everything looks right, nothing looks fishy, stuff like that. They also look over rental applications, which come before the lease, obviously. And they also provide free legal advice to help with any landlord issues that a tenant may be having. And the thing to note is that this is completely free if you're a UWM student. So if you have any questions regarding anything legal, or your payments as a tenant, you should definitely contact them at their email, which we'll post in the chat. But they're a great service that we highly recommend you take a look at. And then another university office is University Housing. We also get a lot of questions about on-campus housing. Our office deals solely with off-campus housing, so if you have any questions about anything regarding the residence halls or meal plans or anything like that, you should contact University Housing, and their email is university-housing@uwm.edu. Next, Abby's going to talk about the Preferred Tenant Program.
So the Preferred Tenant Program is a super cool online seminar that's designed to provide all UWM students with the fundamental resources and knowledge they will need to successfully live off campus. You'll hear presentations from the Neighborhood Housing Office, the UW-Milwaukee Police Department, the City of Milwaukee Police Department, the Dean of Students Office, and the University Legal Clinic that Riley just talked about. And all of these various resources are going to detail the ways in which they can help you successfully move and live off campus on the east side. In addition to the education that you'll get from attending and completing all of the online assignments that come with this program, many landlords in the area will offer either $250 off your security deposit or 2% off your monthly rent. And Riley had showed you the filter for this on the listing service, and the badge that will show up is similar to the logo on this slide. If you would like to sign up for this program, you can do so on the website, and Emmy also posted the link for you in the chat box.
Okay, so on behalf of the NHO, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this webinar. One of the last things that we would ask you guys to do is please fill out our spring survey. Since our office is so centered around UWM students, this survey helps us better tailor our programs to your needs and see what improvements and changes we can make. We would greatly appreciate your feedback, and Emmy will post the link in the chat.
Alrighty, so any questions that anybody has? I see one from Justin asking, the question was in reference to the service provided by We Energies to review the average power month per bill, or average power bill per month for a property, equivalent services to view average bills for water, gas, internet, etc. So to answer your question, if anyone of my teammates want to jump in with their personal experience, go ahead. So for my personal experience, I asked the landlord when I moved in. So like currently my apartment only heat is included. So when they were like, okay, like, you know, gas, water, and electric are not included or whatever, they laid it out for me. They even had like a spreadsheet. They were very thorough with it. Not saying that all landlords are going to do this, but they should know a ballpark just because of like past tenants living there. If there's like an official like site or like program for that, I'm not sure. But I would just encourage you to ask your landlord because I'm sure that they are going to have like a ballpark answer for you. For internet, that is going to be up to you. So like the Spectrum, that's just who I use. But like if you just, that's just who I've always used. But like that was like not set up through my landlord like at all. Like that's something that you have to do. So like you have to look if you want like AT&T, Spectrum, Verizon. I don't even know what other internet providers there are because I've always used Spectrum. But that one you're gonna have to kind of look around and like shop for like the best deal, just because most of the time internet is not something your landlord will have for you. So hopefully that answered your question. And then for Laura, it says, any tips on finding a place if your income isn't 3 times the rent? So if your income isn't 3 times the rent, we recommend probably to have a co-signer. So what that is that you can either have like a parent or an older sibling or an authority figure in your life sign the lease with you, just verifying that if you for some reason can't pay the rent, that there's another person who will pay the rent for you that they're legally obligated to. So that is what we would recommend, just because landlords just want that like safety net, basically, that like somebody is going to pay the rent, you know, if you can't. If you don't have that person, then my advice would just be to find somewhere that has like that is in your budget to find to do 3 times the rent, just because most of the time, like I said, landlords want that like safety net of like knowing that like your opponent and you're going to be able to pay for it. So I would either say get a co-signer or find a roommate in case you can't afford 3 times the rent. I know these are like really hard times right now, and like some people are unemployed, some people are having reduced hours, so like it is a difficult time to find housing. I know I encountered that when I was looking for housing too. So I sympathize with you, but yeah, that would be my suggestions.
I will also add on that. Hi everyone, this is Alyssa. I'm the Neighborhood Housing and Relations Manager. That university housing is a really great option for anybody who does have more financial, what's the word? I don't want to say issues, but I guess guidelines they need to follow. And so we see this a lot with people that are first-time renters. And unfortunately, no one at the university can co-sign for you. So it does need to be another person who's not affiliated with the university to co-sign your lease for you. Sometimes if you have a roommate, landlords will just require that there's a co-signer on the lease. So it may not need to be you that is the person with the cosigner, but maybe your roommate is the one with the cosigner. So that's potentially another way around that. But if those circumstances are still not an option for you, then you definitely would want to pursue living in university housing because there are a lot less financial obligations and legal obligations that go with living in university housing.
Alrighty, is there any other questions that we can answer for anybody? Well, really quick, I'm just gonna go through again just ways to reach us if you guys do think any of any other questions. Again, we're available on Facebook chat from 10 to 2 Monday through Fridays. You can schedule a virtual meeting with us at any time on the neighborhood housing website. Just fill out your contact us form and one of us will reach out to you regarding the virtual meeting time to get scheduled. And then email is housing@uwm.edu. So I have another question. How are people handling new tenants during the pandemic? Could you clarify that for me? Do you mean landlords or like how are landlords handling new tenants during the pandemic? Landlords, how do we find places? How are we able to see places? Okay, so the question is, how are landlords handling new tenants during the pandemic? How do we find places? Are we able to see places, etc.? So I was kind of in the same boat earlier this semester. I was moving places, and for me, what I personally went through is a lot of virtual tours. So the landlords will either have the tenant like FaceTime you or like video chat you through some platform and like show the apartment, or the landlords themselves will have that video. Like some of them had already like posted the videos of like the unit on YouTube. Other ones I like FaceTime with them and talk to them about it. So that was how I was able to see units. Finding places, I did it through the internet, like just through our listing service, or you can always take, like, if you like know the neighborhood that you want to live in, we always encourage you to like drive around. So if you drive around and see any like for sale signs, you can always write down the address and talk to the landlord that way. So basically, to answer your question, we don't really see a lot of landlords doing in-person tours right now just because of the coronavirus pandemic. So they've been doing a lot of virtual tours. So just to like see the units. For me, I ended up signing a lease at a virtual tour that I did, which was like fine. Like I saw the unit and I really liked it, so I ended up signing the lease just based off a virtual tour. So it's a little scary, but you know it'll be okay. All right. Any other questions? Should we hold off until the university announces plans for on-campus instruction to start looking around at properties? Well, so what we officially recommend is that if you are a student who based off of the university's decision, you will not live in Milwaukee, like say you'll live at home with your parents, then we would recommend for you to wait, just because we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. The university is not going to make an announcement until June, I believe they said, and even then, they did state that that could change as well, just because these are unprecedented times and we don't really know what is happening, and we can't predict the future, obviously. So our official recommendation is to wait. With that being said, Milwaukee is a renter's market. There are so many places for students to live. We're not a college town. Like there's a lot of quality houses that you will find off campus that are like vacant even before the coronavirus. So do not worry by waiting. I know it's a little nerve-wracking, but you will be able to find a place. With that being said, I mean, it doesn't hurt to look. Like, you can definitely take a look now. But and under normal circumstances, we do recommend 2 to 3 months in advance. But yeah, we're just saying to wait as late as you can to sign a lease, just because it is a legally binding contract, and we would really hate for you guys to sign a lease, and then if fall is online, it would be really hard to get out of that lease. So just wait until you're certain of, well, 1, the university, and like 2, what you want to do. Fair enough. You're welcome. Thank you for your time. Well, I think that is all the questions we have for today. So thanks everybody for coming and supporting the NHO. If you want to review the webinar, there will be a link on YouTube having this information available for you guys. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks.